Last week, the CDC issued an alert about Enterovirus D68 for children, and the symptoms can range from mild to severe. Joining me live via Zoom is Dr. Karen Landers with the Alabama Department of Public Health. Dr. Landers, thank you so much for joining us here on Alabama Live.
Thank you for inviting me.
Tell us about this virus. This isn't a new virus.
Yes, actually, enterovirus is not a new virus. There are about 100 types of enterovirus. In fact, this particular one, Enterovirus D68, we started seeing more of about 2014 or so. And then around 2018, there were some rare complications reported with this virus, a complication called acute flaccid myelitis. Again, it's very rare. It is a neurologic condition, and persons can develop a weakness of the limbs and, become quite ill with this. But again, I stress this is very rare, while enterovirus infections, and specifically even this particular virus, can cause common respiratory symptoms without further illness or sequelae.
Have we seen cases recently in our state?
Well, certainly not everyone who has enterovirus D68 is even tested. Persons may have a very mild illness, a cold-like illness, and not really need to be tested. Where children might be tested would be on what's called a respiratory viral panel. If children had a more severe respiratory illness, such as a respiratory illness that might require hospitalization, severe coughing, wheezing, and again, other respiratory symptoms that might require hospitalization, then their physician might check a respiratory panel, and again, the enterovirus might show up on that. Certainly, there requires additional testing to identify the enterovirus 68. Now, acute flaccid myelitis is reportable in Alabama. We have not seen any cases recently, but because of this uptick in other parts of the nation, we just want to make parents aware of this. Again, pediatricians, family physicians who see children are aware of this virus and the need to certainly, be on the lookout should children get worsening symptoms. There is no vaccine for this. There actually is not a treatment for this other than supportive.
Dr. Landers, we're talking about children. Does this impact adults as well?
Well, certainly anyone can get an enterovirus, and again, D68 certainly can be seen in adults. It's really much more common to see this in children, and again, not everybody is tested, so we don't know if a person has this illness, again, if they have a very mild course.
Dr. Landers, is there anything specific with this virus that parents need to look out for? Do we need to monitor it like we do the common cold?
I think that's the most important message, and also just some very straightforward measures. We've just been through almost 3 years now with a respiratory virus, if you will. COVID is a respiratory virus, and these are not related viruses other than the fact that they're respiratory. But we can do a lot to reduce our children's development of respiratory viruses, and those measures are measures we've talked about before, and that is first of all, keeping your hands washed, keeping your hands away from your face, especially making sure that if you're sick, stay at home. Don't let your child go to school when they're sick. Make sure that you've talked with your doctor and determined what type of testing might need to be done. And I know people aren't going to want me to say masks, but in a time where we have a lot of respiratory viruses circulating in the fall and winter, it's certainly okay for people to wear masks to reduce the transmission of respiratory viruses. This just happens to be one of those. And again, it may be a measure that some parents need to take depending on the situation in their household if they have persons who have other underlying health problems.
All right, Dr. Landers, I know cold and flu season can be a really scary time for parents, especially if they have small children. So thank you for providing all this information for us today.
Absolutely. Thank you.